does that create any additional like risk for the dollar itself in the collapse? Like if something happens in Europe, then you've got systemic risk just for the dollar through that euro dollar system. How would that play out? Or would that even have an effect?
I sort of think the opposite, if I understand your question, which is like there's all these dollar denominated liabilities, right? The world is basically short dollars. And when you get stress overall in the financial system, there tends to be a bid for the dollar, right? People flee to the dollar as a relative safe haven. So yeah, I think actually if you start to get stress and credit overall, you get a bid for the dollar, dollar gets stronger. Will that eventually, not be the case? Yes, eventually. But I'm kind of in the Michael Saylor camp at this point, thinking about, okay, the dollar's not going to die anytime soon. Moreover, if and when we get broader stablecoin adoption globally, it's more likely that some of these weaker currencies get picked off. Bitcoin keeps growing in the background. Yeah, I don't think that the dollar. I think the dollar could weaken next year. I mean, there'll be uptrends, there'll be downtrends, but are we anywhere near the death of the dollar or the loss of the dollar's reserve currency status? I really don't think so. It's possible, but I don't see it happening, in the next few years.
I completely agree with that.
A lot of nations and corporations would have to agree that Bitcoin's ready to take on that role before they would abandon collectively the dollar, I think, or insane hyperinflation would have to hit. But it feels like this decade is gearing up to be potentially that, as we've been talking about as Bitcoiners for years and years and years now, this process of hyper Bitcoinization, it happens, gradually then suddenly. And even as Bitcoiners, we have a hard time imagining how fast this might actually play out. If we look back, in 3 or 4 years, and this has played out incredibly fast in the interim, I would say that what is happening right now would be very obvious in retrospect, the precursors to a hyperinflationary event that would lead to the death of the dollar in a short amount of time. So I there's, as Preston likes to say, I think there's a non-zero chance that it happens.
Well, what do you think now, Preston? I mean, I think I've heard you say, okay, maybe we got 5 years, but probably not more. Is that still kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think my time frame is 5 years to probably 10 years on the long time frame. Yeah,
I can agree with that. I used to think, like every excited Bitcoiner earlier in my journey, I was like, it's happening now, and now I think, yeah, 5 to 10 is a great estimate. But as you point out, Brady, we don't know. It could happen sooner.
Yeah.
My concern on the 10-year time frame, right, is we're already at the point where we're almost taking yields nominally negative on every government issued fixed income instrument. So if we're there today, almost, in most places we already are, how in the world could the world handle another 10 years of that? And that's where, I guess, for me, 10 years is kind of like the longer time frame, because I just don't know how society could possibly handle another 10 years of rates. Because, I mean, they're not going to stop here. They are going lower. Like, they are absolutely going lower from here. And that's when things are going to get really wonky and really strange. You think we're in bizarro world right now. Give this another 3 years and where they take yields next, you're not going to believe what you see. And I just can't envision a world where that lasts more than 10 years from now. But hey, who knows? Like, I don't know, but I find that to be, I can't imagine how weird things would be.
I agree, and now I'll layer on, the macro and the geopolitical, and someone who I know has shaped both of our thinking. Preston, you too, probably, Brady. That's Ray Dalio, and I just finished his most recent book, and he puts publicly, and he admits this is kind of a finger in the air number, but he puts a 30% chance of each of the following in the next decade. One is hot war with China. And 2 is, basically civil war in the U.S. And if those are independent, which they're probably not independent probabilities, but if they were, that would say, 50-50 that we're going to face something really, really difficult in this decade. And so if you had, as you pointed out, a long time with zero or potentially even negative rates, and then you layer on, the fourth turning, the end of the long-term debt cycle, potentially hotter conflict, that could be the confluence of events or the catalyst for, things breaking down for the fiat system. Because that's the dynamic in which now debt claims, when there's real conflict, either within a nation or among nations, the debt claims don't stand up, right? Now it's sort of every man for himself. The hardest money, the type of money that is no one's liability is what people want to hold. And that's potentially a scenario where things get real.
This holiday season, give the gift of Bitcoin to your loved ones. Swan delivers your Bitcoin gift along with our world-class education and client service. Create a Bitcoin gift and wrap it with a custom message for your family and friends. Dash away with your gift. Your recipient will receive an email right away, that easy. Give the gift of generational wealth. Give Bitcoin.